In this audio recording, I would like to talk about an issue that is ubiquitous and intractable beyond measure: bullying. This also applies to cyberbullying as well. So, let's first define what a bully is. According to a recent Google search, the word bully can either be used as a noun or a verb. The noun version of bully is, and I quote, "a person who uses strength or power to harm or intimidate those who are weaker," end quote. The verb version of the word bully is, and I quote, "use superior strength or influence to intimidate someone, typically to force him or her to do what one wants," end quote. So essentially, we can attest that the description of the word bully is stringent to someone who is strong and intimidating. Bullying of any kind is never okay and should never be tolerated under any circumstances. Any and all bullying should be reported to someone in proper standing of upholding authority. However, we also have a misconception between bullying and self-defense, which is the next point that I will discuss. To play devil's advocate for just a moment, one of the more finer traits of a bully, which wasn't at all mentioned in the usages of the word that I just read to you, is manipulation. The bully will always start the fight, and when the victim defends themselves against the bully, the victim is left to blame. When it comes to justice, the bully will engage in a form of skullduggery by flipping the script and manipulating the mediator into thinking that the victim is the real bully, as if to say that the victim is the real bully who is attacking the actual bully, pretending to be the actual victim. I see this kind of thing happening all the time, and the actual bully gets off scot-free, in turn landing the retribution at the feet of the actual victim. A bully's duplicity can easily be mistaken, which is why I say time and time again that there are always two sides to every story. And anyone who cares enough about justice will consider both sides of the story. The bully will always curry favor of the mediator, and in doing so, they will whitewash the truth and constantly make the victim look like the bully. Evidence also plays an important role in deciding who is the most deserving of retribution, and depending on the circumstances, sometimes it's both parties involved. It is possible for both parties to be held liable and accountable. It's up to the mediator to make that decision, and to also consider, depending on varying circumstances, if the ends justify the means. In other words, if one person bends the rules just enough to expose the evidence of how the opposing party had actually been damaging or faulty in their actions, that may be of consideration. Not saying that that's always the case, but I guess it really depends. As many of you know, I have many problems with the coming of social media, and now because it's an everyday part of our lives, that also means that there are no limits to the things that people will say and do on these platforms. As I, whom of which had become a victim of such heinous behavior on the social media site we all know as Facebook, I have tried on numerous occasions to explain why evidence is always important. Some of the things I was accused of saying were absolutely atrocious, and each and every single time I would ask someone to provide evidence of the claims they were making, they would utterly fail to do so. They would say things to me like, "I have evidence, but I'm not showing you." Anyone can find the evidence, all you have to do is look it up. You had said something that was inappropriate previously, but deleted the comment so no one else could see it. This is Facebook, not a court of law. So now, without further ado, I get to single-handedly dissect and dismantle each and every one of these profound statements made by those who believe that they can talk smack and avoid owning up to their own faulty actions. I have evidence, but I'm not showing you. Well, it's like this. If you have evidence of anything I've ever said, and you are refusing to show me what that evidence is, then you're simply just lying. Because anything I've ever said has always been open and available to the public, which can only mean one thing. Everyone would have read such a comment and had taken the screenshots if that were the case. Upon my countless requests of the so-called evidence you have, not one person, not one, has been able to demonstrate to me exactly what I had said that was deemed as inappropriate. You and I both know that this never happened, and chances are your so-called evidence is a screenshot of a complaint that was also never proven to be true. This is the problem with social media, folks. Anyone can so much as say that you had said something inappropriate, and everyone will be convinced of this, even if the empirical evidence has not been demonstrated to be true. Anyone can find the evidence. All you have to do is look it up. First off, I have, in fact, tried to find anything worth substance that was deserving of such scrutiny. And provided that I have a pretty good recollection of things I've said to people, I do not recall ever saying anything inappropriate. Now, I'm not eluding responsibility, and quite frankly, if you have the evidence of something that you're refusing to show me, then how could I ever take responsibility for something I've said? It's obviously so important to you that I'm held accountable for saying something that I shouldn't have said, and yet you give me absolutely nothing to examine. And if the so-called evidence were really something that could easily be searched and referenced, then how come I haven't found it, even as a casual observer? You had said something that was inappropriate previously, but deleted the comment so no one else could see it. Again, proof, screenshots, where are they? You seem to know this and claim this as fact, and yet again you fail to meet your burden of proof. You're claiming that I said something inappropriate, and yet no screenshots of anything. I wonder why that is. This is Facebook, not a court of law. Well, congratulations. You apparently understand how justice works because no one had mentioned anything about a court of law before you brought it up, which then makes me think that you do in fact understand how evidence works, which, lacking evidence, means that your story righteously collapses without the evidentiary foundation required. So now, gals and gents, do you see why evidence is important? Do you see why I have such quandaries when it comes to the plight of social media? It has become so easy and convenient for bullies to attack who and what they don't like, and in a desperate attempt to stifle me, they doctor up a bunch of lies and convince people that what they're saying is true. Evidence is not simply a he said, she said scenario. You actually need the evidence to support a claim, and this, my valued listeners, is just one way for a bully to behave in such heinous, execrable manners. I have a long history of telling people off, but again, that doesn't qualify me as a bully. When the victim is identified as the bully and vice versa, that's considered an injustice. And when self-defense becomes classified as bullying, then we as people are in favor of mercy, which is a suspension of justice. So if you really care about justice, then it's time that we start making the real bullies pay the piper and start being held accountable. I know in this recording I have fervently and relentlessly made a point about bullies and why they should be stopped. This doesn't apply only to the internet. This is in the real world as well. Sadly, the internet has become a refuge for bullies to take aim at unsuspecting people. And here, on YouTube, on the internet, I hope that this message has been loud and clear, and in hopes that the problem of bullying as a whole will soon be mitigated. Thank you for listening.